Good morning, friends. You've been through things that tried to name you, moments that tried to label you, people who tried to define you based on the version of you that was broken, scared, confused, or lost. But I came to remind you today, you are not what happened. You are not the failure. You are not the mistake. You are not the betrayal, the abuse, the trauma, or the heartbreak. What happened may have shaped you, but it does not get to define you. Some of you are walking around with invisible scars, wondering if anyone can see the damage underneath the surface. You're functioning, showing up, performing, smiling, but your heart is still carrying the weight of what went wrong. Maybe it was childhood. Maybe it was the divorce. Maybe it was the betrayal. Maybe it was the season that broke you in silence. But listen closely. What broke you is not bigger than what God can build through you. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means no longer being imprisoned by the memory. It means learning how to walk again, even though the limp reminds you where you've been. It means realizing that your survival wasn't just about getting through, it was about becoming. The pain didn't destroy you. It refined you, it revealed you, and it released a version of you that only emerges from fire. There is still purpose inside you. There is still oil on your name. You don't have to wait until you're perfect to be powerful. You don't have to be fully healed to be useful. God will use the ashes. He will use the wilderness. He will use the tears that no one saw and the prayers you prayed through clenched fists and trembling hands. Your story isn't too messy for redemption. It's the perfect setup for resurrection. Sometimes we believe the lie that because something happened to us, something must be wrong with us. But trauma is not identity. Loss is not identity. Struggle is not identity. Your identity is not in what was done to you. It's in what God placed inside you. Nothing can take that away. So stop rehearsing the pain like it's a prophecy. Stop watering shame like it's your assignment. Your healing is not a betrayal of what you went through. It's the evidence that it didn't win. You're not the same, but that doesn't mean you're worse. It means you've evolved. It means you've expanded. It means you're rising even with the limp, even with the stain, even with the memories. You are more than what happened. You are who you're becoming. There's a lie that trauma tries to tattoo on your identity. It whispers that because it happened to you, it must define you. That because you were abused, you're broken. That because you failed, you're unworthy. That because they left, you're unlovable. But let me tell you something bold, beautiful, and freeing. You are not what you went through. Your identity is not tied to your trauma. Your identity is tied to who God says you are, not what life did to you. Trauma is real. Pain is real. And it leaves marks, some that people see and many that they don't. But the presence of pain does not mean the absence of purpose. Just because you were touched by darkness doesn't mean you belong to it. You can walk through fire and still not smell like smoke. You can fall flat on your face and still rise in glory. Because your identity is rooted in truth, not in trauma. The enemy's favorite weapon is confusion. If he can't destroy your calling, he'll try to distort your identity. He'll use your past to create doubt about your worth. He'll keep you tied to a version of yourself that no longer exists, one that lived in survival mode, one that couldn't speak up, one that didn't know her power. But God is saying, that's who you were. That's not who you are. When you believe that your trauma defines you, you live your life in a cage built by moments. You shrink, you hide, you overcompensate, you build walls so high that nothing can get in, not even love. And you stop reaching for destiny because you think the damage disqualified you. But damage doesn't cancel destiny. Sometimes it's the doorway to it. Sometimes the exact place where you were wounded is the place where your greatest wisdom will flow. Your trauma is part of your story, but it is not your name. Your name is healed. Your name is chosen. Your name is beloved. Your name is warrior. And the sooner you stop wearing shame like it belongs to you, the sooner you'll step into the version of yourself who was never meant to carry that burden in the first place. You don't have to keep agreeing with what tried to destroy you. You were not created to live small just because life made you feel insignificant. You were not designed to carry labels like broken, failure, too much, not enough. God never wrote those on your life. Life did, pain did, people did, but you have the authority to tear those labels off and say, that's not me anymore. That's what I went through. But it's not who I am. There is a strength inside of you that survived everything that tried to erase you. You didn't lose your value when you lost that season. You didn't lose your worth when they walked away. You didn't lose your identity when you hit rock bottom. You are still her, the one who was chosen before she was formed, the one who still has something to give even if her hands are trembling, the one who is still becoming. So stop measuring your identity by your trauma. Your trauma was a chapter, not the whole book. It shaped you, but it cannot name you. There's a name God gave you that came before the pain, and it still stands. You are redeemed. You are restored. You are rising. And no trauma, no matter how loud, can speak louder than the truth of who you really are. We don't like the breaking. We don't like the moments that shatter our plans, wreck our confidence, and leave us face down in the middle of what we never saw coming. But what if the breaking isn't the end? What if it's the beginning? God doesn't waste brokenness. In fact, some of the most powerful callings are birthed in the most painful places. He doesn't need perfect people. He uses the ones who were shattered but still showed up. When your world fell apart, you thought it was over. But what if that was the very moment God started building something new? Not in spite of your brokenness, but through it. He takes the pieces the world discards and turns them into testimonies. What looked like destruction was divine construction. Purpose is often born in places where pride dies. In the silence after the storm, in the wreckage of what you thought you needed to survive. We live in a world that teaches us to hide our brokenness, to cover the cracks, to wear filters over our pain. But God isn't repelled by what's broken. He's drawn to it because brokenness makes space. Space for Him to enter. Space for healing. Space for real transformation. When we stop pretending to be whole, we finally position ourselves to be made whole by the one who sees everything and loves us anyway. Think about it. The olive has to be crushed to release the oil. The soil has to be broken to receive the seed. The womb has to stretch to birth new life. Brokenness is not a sign of failure. It's the setting for release. God doesn't just want to heal you. He wants to bring something out of you. And often the thing He wants to birth through you requires you to be cracked open. Maybe your heartbreak gave you compassion you didn't have before. Maybe your failure taught you how to lead with humility. Maybe your loss softened you so you could hold space for someone else's pain. That's what purpose born in brokenness looks like. It's raw. It's real. It's rooted in something deeper than applause or titles. It's rooted in survival, in surrender, in scars that have turned into strength you thought your breaking disqualified you. But what if it qualified you in ways you never imagined? What if the nights you cried yourself to sleep are the reason you now carry the oil that breaks yokes? What if your wilderness season wasn't wasted, but was the training ground for the next chapter? God doesn't use resumes. He uses surrender, and brokenness makes us open. Pliable, teachable. You don't need to have it all together to be used. You just need to bring your pieces, lay them down. Say, God, this is all I've got, and watch Him breathe life into what you thought was ruined. Your brokenness is not a burden to Him. It's an invitation, an opening, a door, a signal that says, I'm ready to be rebuilt by grace, not pride, by purpose, not performance. There's something sacred about being broken and still choosing to show up, still choosing to worship, still choosing to believe that something good can come from the ashes, and it can, it will. Because when God breathes on brokenness, purpose rises. Not the shallow kind, but the deep kind, the kind that's earned in the fire. The kind that can't be shaken by storms. We think healing means forgetting. That one day, if we're strong enough, if we pray long enough, if we push hard enough, we'll finally wake up and the pain won't exist. But healing doesn't erase the past. It doesn't hit delete on your memories. Healing redeems the past. It takes what the enemy meant to destroy you and flips it into a tool that builds you. It doesn't make it disappear. It makes it meaningful. There are moments in your story that still sting. You walk past the place, hear the name, see the memory, and something in you flinches. That's real. That's human. Healing doesn't mean you stop remembering. It means you remember without reliving. It means you revisit the same story, but this time with power in your voice. This time with tears that testify, not paralyze. Redemption is when you can look back and still choose forward. God never asked you to pretend it didn't happen. He's not calling you to fake strength. He's calling you to allow Him into the places that still hurt. To open the closets you locked, to touch the wounds you covered, to surrender the chapters you swore you'd never talk about. Not to shame you, but to redeem you. Because you can't rewrite history, but you can reclaim the narrative. Some of you have been praying to forget, but what if God wants you to remember differently? What if your memory was never meant to haunt you, but to teach you? What if it's the very thing that will make you wise enough to lead others through what almost broke you? Redemption turns pain into purpose, scars into sermons, and trauma into territory. But you've got to be willing to give God access to the entire story. You don't need a new past to have a new future. What you need is healing that covers the old and breathes life into the next. Healing that lets you look at your reflection and not see what happened to you, but see what survived in you. That's what redemption does. It turns survivors into storytellers. It transforms the victim into the vessel. Healing that erases the past is temporary. It numbs, it hides. But healing that redeems is eternal. It's divine. It rebuilds your identity. It says, yes, this happened, but this is not who I am. And that kind of healing, it frees not just your body and mind, but your spirit. It allows God to sit in the parts of your life you thought were too dirty, too dark, or too damaged. The truth is, we often ask for healing because we want the pain to stop, but real healing is deeper than relief. It's restoration. It returns what was lost in the storm. It gives back your voice, your joy, your trust, not because the storm didn't happen, but because it didn't win. Healing that redeems gives you back everything you thought you'd never feel again. You don't have to wait until your past disappears to be healed. Healing is not erasure, it's transformation. It's God saying, I'm not ashamed of your wounds. I'm going to use them. And once you've been redeemed, the past no longer owns you. It becomes your foundation. It becomes the backdrop for grace. It becomes the place where resurrection began. You've been walking around like you missed your moment, like the thing that broke you somehow canceled your calling. But I came to remind you, you are not disqualified because of what broke you. The betrayal didn't erase your purpose. The heartbreak didn't remove your value. The mistake didn't revoke your anointing. God doesn't rip up your assignment just because you've been through some storms. We think that if we fall, if we fail, if we break, we're done. Like purpose has a deadline and we missed it. Like our pain has the power to evict us from destiny. But can I tell you something? Brokenness doesn't make you unworthy, it makes you relatable. God isn't looking for spotless people, He's looking for surrendered ones. People who know what it feels like to hurt and still show up. People who've been through fire and still carry light. You're not the exception to grace. You're not the one person too messed up to be used. That addiction, that affair, that abortion, that secret, God already saw it and He still called you. He still gifted you. He still has plans for you. We serve a God who uses bruised hands to build, shaky voices to preach, and scarred hearts to love others back to life. The enemy would love for you to believe that what broke you disqualified you. Because if you believe that lie, you'll never try again. You'll never write again, speak again, trust again, build again. But the truth is, the breaking didn't bury you, it revealed you. You discovered strength you didn't know you had. You found God in places you never expected, and that makes you more ready than ever. God specializes in using the overlooked. The ones they counted out, the ones they whispered about, the ones who walked into rooms full of shame and still managed to carry glory. You don't have to be whole to be chosen. Being broken didn't cancel the call. It prepared you for it. It gave you depth. It gave you compassion. It gave you the oil that only flows from pressure. Stop disqualifying yourself from rooms God already gave you the key to. Stop editing your story to make other people comfortable. The real, raw, redeemed version of you is the one who's going to break chains for others, not the polished version, not the performance. It's your pain that gives your purpose weight. It's your wounds that make your words healing. The world wants perfect people, but heaven looks for the willing. And sometimes the most powerful voices are the ones that cracked open under pressure and still decided to speak. So if you're still here after all the breaking, after all the battles, then that means you're still qualified, still equipped, still dangerous to the enemy. You may feel like your past discredits you, but God says it authenticates you. It's proof that you've lived, that you've endured, that you've overcome. The ones who've been broken carry an authority that can't be taught. It's earned in the valley, in the tears, in the midnight hours, and that authority, it's not disqualified, it's destined. There's power in your voice, even if it trembles when you speak, even if you have to whisper through the fear, even if the words come slow, heavy, cracked from the weight of what you've lived through. Your voice matters. And I know you've been silenced before, by pain, by shame, by people who told you to sit down, be quiet, stay small. But heaven is waiting on the sound only you can release. You don't have to be the loudest to be heard. You don't have to have it all figured out before you open your mouth. There's glory in honesty. There's anointing in authenticity. When you speak from your scars, your truth carries authority. Not because you rehearsed it, but because you lived it. And no one can argue with a voice that comes from survival. Sometimes the enemy doesn't even need to destroy you. He just needs to mute you. If he can get you to believe your voice isn't valuable, he can keep you from disrupting darkness. He knows that once you speak, chains break. Once you open your mouth, healing flows. Once you tell the truth, somebody else finds the courage to tell theirs too. That's why your silence has been under attack. Your voice carries keys. It carries answers. It carries light. And when you hide it, when you silence it, when you diminish it because you're afraid of judgment or rejection, the world loses access to what only you can give. Don't wait until you're polished. God doesn't need perfection. He needs your yes. Even if your voice is shaking, say the thing, share the story, pray the prayer. Somebody needs it. You've survived too much to stay silent. You didn't make it through what tried to kill you just to shrink now. Your voice may carry a limp, but it also carries legacy. When you speak, you break patterns, you confront lies, you set generations free. So speak even if your words are soaked in tears, even if your tone is timid, even if your story is still being written. Your voice doesn't need to be validated by applause to be powerful. Sometimes the most powerful voices are the ones that speak even when no one is clapping, even when the room is quiet, even when fear is loud. But every time you choose courage over silence, your voice gets stronger. Your boldness grows, and your presence becomes a testimony that broken people still carry glory. Let them underestimate you. Let them dismiss you. But don't you ever dismiss yourself. Don't you ever downplay your story because it makes others uncomfortable. God didn't bring you through that for you to whisper when you were born to roar. There's deliverance in your mouth. There's healing in your sentence. There's purpose in your volume, even when it shakes. So lift your voice, even if it trembles. Speak your truth, even if it's messy. Share your journey, even if it's unfinished. Because someone is waiting on the sound of your surrender, your breakthrough, your testimony. And when you release it, chains fall, not just for you, but for everyone assigned to your voice. Some of us are still sitting in spaces that once wounded us because we think loyalty means staying stuck. We feel obligated to the pain like we owe it something. But I came to remind you today you are allowed to outgrow what hurt you. You are not required to keep reliving trauma just because it feels familiar. Growth is not betrayal, it's deliverance. And if God is pulling you out of something, it's not to punish, it's to promote. There's a version of you that existed in survival mode. She was strong, guarded, reactive, cautious. And she got you through some hard places. But just because she protected you once doesn't mean she's meant to lead you now. That version of you may have come from pain, but the healed you, the free you, she deserves room to rise. You can honor your past without letting it imprison your present. Some people, some places, and some patterns only make sense when you're still bleeding. When you're healing, you start seeing things differently. Conversations don't feel safe. Cycles don't sit right. You become too big for what once held you. That's not ego, it's growth. And when you start to outgrow what hurt you, don't apologize for needing distance. Healing shifts your alignment. And sometimes healing sounds like, I love you, but I can't stay. You've been trained to tolerate dysfunction because it's all you knew. You've normalized being drained, being used, being dismissed. But your healing is challenging those agreements. It's teaching you boundaries. It's waking up the part of you that says, I don't have to keep proving my worth to people who benefit from my brokenness. You're allowed to choose peace over performance. Outgrowing pain means you no longer see it as home. You stop calling chaos chemistry. You stop needing the apology to move on. You stop fighting to stay in rooms where your spirit is shrinking. You realize that healing is not just about mending, it's about moving. And some things can only be fully healed after you've walked away, after you've given yourself permission to want more. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is unfollow, uninstall, or unsubscribe, not out of bitterness, but out of alignment. Because staying where God no longer lives will always cost you more than it gives you. You don't have to keep renting space in your life to what once broke you. Let the growth be loud. Let the change be visible. You're not who you were when you entered that storm, and that's a good thing. There will be guilt sometimes, the kind that makes you question your decisions, the kind that makes you want to go back just to feel familiar again. But don't let guilt keep you tied to places grace has already freed you from. Growth will cost you some attachments. But what you gain, peace, identity, clarity, healing, is always worth it. You weren't created to live in pain forever. You are not being selfish for choosing wholeness. You are not wrong for needing space. You are not rebellious for saying, this doesn't fit me anymore. That's not pride, that's wisdom. And when you decide to outgrow what hurt you, you give yourself permission to become who you were always meant to be. Before the pain, before the trauma, before the survival mode, you may feel like what's left of you is barely recognizable. After the betrayal, the breakdown, the storm, you've looked in the mirror and wondered, where did I go? But I want to speak something into your spirit today. The real you is not gone, she's rising. Not the performative you, not the get it all right you, but the authentic, powerful, healed version of you that the enemy hoped would never survive the rubble. God never needed you to pretend you were okay. He's not in love with your mask, he's in love with your truth. He saw the moment you were shattered, and he whispered, I'm not done. The ruins may be all you see, but God sees the rebirth. The same way a seed must break before it grows. Your breaking was never a burial. It was a birthing. The soil looked like death, but it was holy ground. There's something sacred about the ruins, because that's where God does his best work. He doesn't build on stages. He builds in silence. He builds in mess. He builds in what other people walked away from. When people left, when your hope collapsed, when your identity crumbled under pressure, that's where God planted the blueprint of the real you. The version of you that was buried is now breaking through. You thought your strength was in being put together, but real strength is found in surrender. It's found in standing up when no one sees. It's found in choosing softness after being hardened by life. And that version of you, that's the one rising now, not the one who's trying to impress, not the one who's exhausted from pretending, but the version of you that knows who she is because she knows who her God is. The ruins are where you lost people, but found purpose. The ruins are where your plans died, but your passion came alive. The ruins are where the dust cleared, and you finally stopped trying to go back to who you were. Because the real you was never meant to fit into what collapsed. She was always meant to rise from it. When God allows something to fall apart, it's not to destroy you, it's to uncover you. Like a sculptor chiseling away everything that doesn't belong, he uses every hit to reveal what's already inside you. You are not becoming someone else, you are returning to the version of you he designed before life started breaking things. The ruins didn't create you. They revealed you, and yes, rising is messy. It's not always graceful. Sometimes it looks like crying while getting dressed. Sometimes it looks like shaking while showing up. Sometimes it feels like starting over with trembling faith and shaky hands. But you're doing it. You're rising. And every step, every tear, every brave yes is proof that you are stronger than what tried to bury you. You don't have to wait until you feel whole to believe you're rising. The evidence is already around you, in your fight, in your faith, in your refusal to stay in pieces. The enemy should have taken you out when he had the chance. Because now the real you is rising from the ruins, and she's not going back.